care who it is. This is a brotherhood. And if we stand strong together, we can't be denied. If one of us goes down, we have another, and another, and another that's ready to fight. So let's hit this field and bang them, bang them, bang them. Somebody, light me up.
It's time to huddle up. It's the Turf District Podcast. Good evening and welcome back to the Turf District for the Turf District Podcast, where we talk all things EE football and the CFL. Of course, we are a part of the Alberta Podcast Network, locally grown, community supported, and we are also a part of the Canadian Football Podcast Network. Welcome down to the show. My name is Andrew, and we have a great show for you tonight. We are doing a bit of a round table as we talk all things that are going on in the CFL. As it turns out, we don't have a ton of Edmonton football team news, so we thought we'd get some pals together and talk about all the other stuff that is going on. And I believe we have two brand new guests and one that is a one-time returning guest, so we have new voices to chat and see how things are going. First, of course, let's bring in the one and only Commissioner. Kayla, how are you?
Hi, I'm good. How are you?
Good. It's nice to have you back.
Yes.
I'm glad you're back for chatting this week. We missed you last week, of course.
Oh, thanks. You guys had lots to talk about.
Yeah, well, it's kind of not hard when we have JMO because he kind of carries a lot of the conversation, and we just have to, play along after that. So that makes it a lot of fun. But Kayla, we have some amazing guests this week.
We do.
I'm pretty excited about all the different viewpoints that we got going on and new people. So let's bring them all in, shall we?
We shall.
All right, here are our three guests for this evening, starting from the CFL Horseman podcast straight down south. It is the one and only Stephanie Hudson. Thank you for coming.
Hi, guys. So excited to be here. I'm kind of excited that it's not Ryan.
You have no idea how excited we are that it's not right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's I was not gonna not leave that alone. But it's nice. We got to change it up every now and again, and we this way we have a couple of female voices. It's going to be fantastic.
Love
so
it.
Thank you for coming
Love
in.
it.
Yeah, it's awesome. Also joining us from the Piffles website, and you may have heard him on the podcast at one point a little while back, Sheldon Jones. How are you, man?
I'm good. How are you?
Doing really well. Thanks for joining us. I know we were chatting a bit there on Twitter back and forth, and I thought this sounds like a guy we could have and have a good conversation with. So thanks for joining us.
I hope I can speak as eloquently as I tweet, I guess.
Okay. Well, we'll forgive the hat and then we'll go from there. Okay, next on the list. I don't give you a chance to respond when I know I have things like that. Next on the list, joining us all the way from Chicago in the United States, Greg Smith, better known to all of us as Smitty from CFL Films. How are you, Smitty?
I'm doing good. How are you guys doing tonight?
Doing very, very well. And I'm glad you're here because you and I have had some amazing conversations while we've been playing our Cold Snap League. And this is going to be a lot of fun to get a little bit of an American perspective on top of all of us Canadians chatting about our favorite league. So we're going to do for the YouTube Live, we're just going to have touch on a few different things. And then we'll kind of really get into it on the pod. But while I've got the three of you here, we've been asking everybody that's been coming on the show, of course, about our own team and their name and what might be coming forward. Do you guys, out of the list of 7, or did you have a different one that you think, I'd really like the Edmonton team to have this name? And I know that's going to be really hard for you, Stephanie, because it means you have to talk about the team up north. But I'm going to start with you and say, is there a team name that you would think, that was probably a good
I
one?
love the L counts.
Really? Okay.
It's just so
Now,
funny.
why is that? Why is that?
Honestly, so I read the article. I don't remember who wrote it. Let's just go Edmonton football team. No, please no. Have an identity, please.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I would like to have an identity. Yeah.
Anything other than energy, and I think I'll be okay.
That, you know what?
Please just not.
I am so glad you said that. Yeah, that is not my favorite either. So,
Yep.
but L counts.
L
Okay,
counts.
so one vote for L counts. All right, let's go around the table to the top here. Smitty, what do you think?
You know what? I gotta say elk. It's just simple, easy. Fits that 3-letter. It's just easy. Though, as Mike keeps reminding me, it's not a moose. So
That's no, they are different. They are different. My question for you when you say that is elk or elks with an S on the end?
I think elk. Isn't elk the plural? It's the plural and the singular.
It actually both are acceptable. But the Elks is actually like the men's club, right?
That's what I was thinking. Yeah,
right?
that's when I hear
And
Elks, I think of country clubs.
Right. And elk is just plural for elks. But I'm, you know what I'm really starting to warm up though is the fact that if we're called the elk, then I guess the term, if you have a bunch of them, is a gang of elks or elk, a gang of elk. And I'm like, yeah. I could see Kayla already throwing up her gang signs. Yeah, that's right. Gang.
Dope.
Yeah, I'm
That's
part of
not
the
right.
elk.
That's dope.
That's there we go. That's what it is. Sheldon, if you had to pick, and I again, I understand this is a different shade of green for you, so it might be painful, but if you had to pick a name, what'd you go with?
I'm partial to the elk myself as well. I liked Empire back in the day. Like I wish that I do like Empire as a name, but I think out of the choices, elk. You know, you can have the regular double E logo, and you can have the horns as a throwback helmet or something, and I think it would look really cool.
Yeah, can you imagine the number of people wearing foam antlers in the stands? Like it's
Oh,
going to be
man.
crazy.
Oh, it's
Of course.
Yeah.
Yeah. When we're allowed people, of course. Let's let's make sure that I gotta,
great.
you know. Yeah, sooner or later, right? It's got to happen. All right. Well, let's get us all in here now in one shot. Talking about getting back into football. What do you guys see as far as when does football actually get to start? Do we see football in June or are we looking later on? Let's go the other way this time. We'll start with you, Sheldon.
I'm hopeful that it'll start sooner than later, but I guess it all depends on the players if they take this deal or not. But I would like to see as close to a full season as possible. Whether that's feasible or not, I don't know. But hopeful for June, realistically more like Labor Day probably.
Yeah, I think like most things that are going on as far as since we started COVID times, it's like, yeah, well, we all hope it's here, but we know it might be later. That's at least as long as it's something and not nothing, right? At this point, that's really what we're going for. Commissioner, we didn't get to ask you this last time, so what do you think?
Oh my gosh, I don't know. Just give me football. Like I'm just gonna lose my mind. I don't even know what to say because I'm just like, you want to be optimistic and think that it's gonna go forward, and like you said, it's better September than nothing. But at the same time, like we kind of went through this already, where it was like maybe this, maybe that, maybe this, maybe that. It's just like I can't handle it anymore. Like I'm going crazy.
So, yeah, we're all in that same boat. Smitty, what do you think?
I think it's going to be wishful thinking for training camps to open up at this point, because the commissioner really has not laid out a plan for opening anything in detail. The vaccines, at least, I know from what I've heard for up there, the vaccine rollout is still slow. Down here, it's picking up pace, but there's a whole issue of the border being open, and so I think it's going to be later. In fact, I would say probably closer to August than I would. Yeah, probably closer to August, I would say.
Okay. And the one thing I'll just say to that is that you're right. They haven't spelled out a detailed plan to us. That doesn't mean they don't have a detailed plan and we just haven't heard it yet. So there is a possibility, like Sheldon, you said, they put this deal on the proposal on the table for the CFLPA. We're going to get into that a little more in the podcast and not on here, but that is definitely a possibility of something in place, and then we'd find out later. Stephanie, what do you think?
So I follow a lot of players on Instagram, and I've started to see a lot more guys show their vaccine passports.
Okay.
And, guys that are in their 20s and 30s that have both their shots. So every time I see that, I get a little more hopeful. And we know that they've put the at least the teams, if not the league, has put plans to most of the health
authorities,
higher ups.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's the word. So, they're working towards it. And, I think we'll probably see July, August. But every step that I see gives me just that little bit more hope.
And
because I'm like, Kayla, we need it.
And hope is not a bad thing at this moment. We like hope. We'll hang on to hope. That's not a bad thing. another big topic that I want to touch on here with you guys, of course, is the talk of when we do get football back. Is it CFL that we know? Is it CFL XFL blend? Is it CFL with plans to be XFL later? Or what is your gut feeling based on what we've heard over the last few weeks? So Smitty, I'll start with you this time.
I don't see the XFL coming into play in terms of actual, because right now the XFL is only logos and a business plan. So I don't see the XFL coming into play for at least another 2 years till they can, they don't even have stadiums at this point. So so I think at least just, and again, my opinion for whatever it's worth, and you all know what I've put out there on Twitter about here in the States, that we do have CFL regulation fields now compared to what, 25 years ago when the CFL tried to expand down here. But I don't see it happening for at least another 2 years, realistically. I think The Rock's going to come in and bail out, for lack of a better term, provide, that money to help the league get through. But I think eventually there's going to be a transition to some sort of, and I don't even want to call it merger, but some sort of integration between the leagues. So that's my thought. I mean, I could go on and on, but I know we've only got so much time. But yeah, just another 2 years before anything with the XFL really, really happens on the ground.
All right, that's fair. Steph, how do you feel about that? that was a deep inhale if I ever heard one. Okay.
I think my biggest thing is, no matter what, because it's a venture capitalist funding it.
Right.
If it doesn't turn a profit in 2 years, I worry that they're just going to say and walk away, and we're going to lose CFL. And if we lose CFL, we probably lose U Sports. Right. And the dominoes start to fall, and then it's like, okay, what kind of football do we even have in Canada? And that's my biggest worry of the whole thing. Like, rules and different countries, that's great, but do we actually get to keep football?
Yeah, and that's fair. That's fair. I think I don't want to go too far into that yet until I would know even what a plan would be, right? Like, I agree with you. Like, when it's a venture capital person coming in saying, okay, we need to make money off of this. That's the reason they do it. Mm-hmm. But on the other hand, until I know, well, okay, what's the plan to make money? Then I wouldn't. I'm trying not to be too worried about it until I know. I mean, I don't think in my opinion, I don't think it affects this year. I think this year we see what we are used to seeing, and then we see where we go from there.
No, I think Smitty's right. I think we're at least a couple years away, if not more. But I still don't want to get it at all.
No, that's all right. That's all right. Sheldon, where do you stand on this one?
Pretty much the same thing. Like, I know I wasn't too worried about it when Dwayne tweeted what he tweeted yesterday or the day before when he was replying to John Rush. That kind of set everything spinning, saying, like, there's definitely more going on that we know. It's like they're not just talking about talking anymore. But I agree with Smitty that it's at least a couple years away. They need to see what we can do, I guess, and we need to see what they can do. But I wouldn't be surprised if once we do get started, like, they don't see The Rock, popping up here for games and some promotional stuff and trying to keep the wheels turning on that. But yeah, it's a couple years away. Least.
Yeah, there's a couple exciting things that you said there, and again, we'll dive into this a bit more on the pod. But the fact that he responded, that The Rock responded to somebody, just so he is actually monitoring some of the chat, which is kind of cool. But also just the thought that, could you imagine when TSN says, okay, this CFL game is on, and The Rock retweets it like that? Like, what? That's a pretty major exposure for our league. So, those kind of things had me a bit more hopeful, a little more excited about how that might pan out. So, Kayla, are there any questions in the chat or anybody that was wanting us to tackle?
Just kind of some discussion. Bill brought up no truth to the rumor of the Edmonton Evergreens is now part of the new name pod or pool? Question mark.
Yeah, that name can get thrown in the garbage. That's fine. Yeah, I'm good.
I think you mean Evergreen, maybe Evergivens. Was that a
Oh,
joke?
that would be,
Yes.
That was a joke.
Yes, do it.
Ever Givens? Yeah, no, I don't think so. Yeah, because the last thing we need is another thing that's stuck. Okay, carry on. Anything else in there?
Just some comments just about how BC has really high COVID cases now, and things are starting to close and go into quarantine once again. Yeah,
I think that's kind of the same in Regina, I believe too. They're kind of having to go up, right, Sheldon?
Yeah, I think yesterday Alberta actually went per capita higher than us, or the day before, but we were number one for quite some time there, and the variant is getting definitely out of control here. It's pretty scary. We shut down the restaurant, the dining rooms, and stuff like that on Sunday, so it's only in effect until next week, but it's going to go long for sure.
Right. And I think in Alberta, Stephanie, last I checked, I think the numbers really spiked in Calgary. I know they spiked in Edmonton like a few weeks ago, but now it seems it's kind of spiked in Calgary, and Edmonton is leveling out. So that's the thing with this. Anything that we say as far as when are we going to play or when are we going to see people, who knows? It changes day to day as far as how many people are sick.
Yeah, it's not great down here, but our government won't do a circuit breaker like we probably should have several times now.
Fair. Yeah. And so we got to wait and see, right? So I guess we'll all sit here with our fingers crossed, and we'll all go, it's it's just early April. We have time to get this in place, right? We've got time to figure something out and hopefully get things going. Well, like I said, we'll get more into that on the podcast because I've got lots of other stuff and comments and things that I want to talk to you guys about. I want to.
Well, Andrew.
Yes, Kayla.
Sorry, Bill made kind of an interesting comment on the CFL XFL. So if they could run some kind of split season,
yep,
with the players doing CFL and XFL and putting more money in their pockets.
Well,
so I'm assuming he means CFL maybe earlier in the year and XFL later.
Yeah, or XFL early on and like right after the Super Bowl and then going into CFL. Anybody want to tackle that one first?
Yeah, so a couple of players have made comments that there's no way that if you're playing a full CFL season that you can jump into the XFL. But I heard the comment, John and I have been talking about this. It could be great for guys on practice roster.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
The guys that practice a couple times a week, they're not putting their bodies through games every week. They're learning, they're getting better. And then they go play XFL and they get some tape and get some experience. And then if they get NFL shots, that's awesome for them. If they come back to the CFL, they're probably a better player after that. So for guys that are starters, probably not.
Right, but those guys that are in the third stringers or the practice roster guys, those might be guys that now they can actually get some they get some actual reps in, right? And then for that next guy that is, say, for every Alex Singleton that we have that is now moving on to the NFL, maybe there's a guy now coming from the XFL that could take that spot here that's actually had some reps and not just practice roster stuff. What do you guys think, Sheldon and Smitty?
I'll defer to Sheldon on this.
Okay.
Because I have not given this much thought. I'm still trying to figure out the logistics of a lot of things, but yeah, that's fair. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
It's all good. I think it's interesting. Like maybe if they can find 9 XFL teams and have like sort of partnerships between the team where if the XFL season starts right after the Super Bowl, you do have like a group of like 5 or 6 or 10 or however many players that the coaches up in the CFL would like to see, and they sit down there and get them some reps, like you said, and that might be something that would be actually beneficial for the players and the league.
Absolutely. Yeah, not so much as a not a farm league, but basically a development for those guys that are kind of in between.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Even like not so much farm league, but like you could say like NHL, AHL, but not quite like that. Because you wouldn't be running at the same time, but just you could use the XFL more as a developmental for the CFL per se. Maybe I don't.
Right. Well, and like you said, Stephanie, if they can get tape in both places. Now again, tough to do. You play on an active roster for 8 games, and then a month later you're jumping into a CFL season. That might be pretty tough, but again, it gives you another way to get tape, right? So if the players can go between the leagues, might be better for them. They may not play in both leagues at the same year, but at least then there's an opportunity to get some tape somewhere. I like that.
Yeah.
Anything else come up in there, Kayla?
Nope.
Okay.
Nothing for questions.
Perfect. Well, you guys, thanks for joining us for the YouTube live portion, and we're going to get to the pod right away. Tell everyone, we'll just go around quickly where everybody can find you on socials and things so that they can follow all you wonderful people and have more chats like this. We'll start with you on the top corner there, Smitty.
You can find me on Twitter at CFL America, and then on the web at cflamerica.ca. Perfect.
Steph?
Yeah, I just changed my Twitter handle. I had to look it up. It's @S_Huds16.
Perfect.
On Twitter. SHuds on Instagram.
Okay, fantastic. We will definitely follow you. Well, we already will. Lots of other people will. Yeah. That's what I should say. Okay. And Sheldon?
I am on Twitter, Sheldon Jones 83, for my love of Andy Fantuz when I was younger. And then I also started a new Instagram with my spin art called Sheldon Spins, so check that out.
That's awesome. Can you actually angle your camera up so you can see that a little bit? Because I love those things. I think they're super cool. Check that out.
I don't have all.
That's very cool.
And then you're just putting the logos in the middle, right? Or have you? Yeah. Oh, I love the CFL one. Oh my goodness, I hadn't seen that one.
Yeah, that's so dope.
It's one of my favorite. The Argos one is my absolute favorite, I think, so far, just with the pattern. But it's I just put the stickers on after when they're drying, and it sticks to it pretty nicely. And
wow,
yeah, it's fun.
And, sorry, where do we find that again?
Cool.
It's on Instagram. It's just Sheldon Spins.
Sheldon Spins. All right, perfect. I'll be looking it up, much less everyone else. That's fantastic. Excellent. Commissioner, where does everybody find you?
On the Twits at Duchess Lombardi.
Perfect. Excellent. And of course, you can find our show and all of our stuff at the Turf District. That's the same thing on Facebook, on Twitter, on Instagram. It's all the Turf District, nice and easy. You may have noticed I'm wearing this fancy Turf District shirt. Woo! Yay. You want one of those? Absolutely. Everybody wants one of those. They're $25. You can message us. We are actually working on like a pickup day where we'll be either at our tailgate spot or some other spot where we can have people come and actually pick up their shirts, and working in conjunction with our good friend Janelle to try and have some tasty cupcakes on hand. So we'll give more information on that as soon as we have it. But again, pick up your shirts, and again, $10 from every shirt goes to support the Dwayne Mandrusiak Fund, which is supporting amateur football, which is amazing. So super fan, we hope that he can join us again in a couple of weeks with more Horde items. Luckily, we had lots to talk about tonight, so we didn't have specific for Horde items. The show should be out tomorrow. Please add us in on iTunes, Google Podcasts, Spotify, anywhere you find podcasts. I want to thank the people who took kind of went out of their way to kind of link us back to our old show. That was amazing. And thank you for the help. We really appreciate it. And some of the reviews we've got, I really appreciate it. Any of that really helps the show grow. And I think we're like number 68 in iTunes for football podcasts. So we're slowly getting up there. So all of your guys' support is super helpful, and we really, really appreciate it. And it's a great way to help out the show for free. So great. So join us again in a couple of weeks. If you went with our old iteration and our new iteration, our show in 2 weeks will be number 200 for podcasts. So we are working on having some fun with that. So make sure you join us in a couple of weeks. We'll have some fun on YouTube Live and, of course, record the pod as always. Until then, thank you for watching. We really appreciate you being here. You can join us on the pod this week, and we will absolutely talk to you later this week.